This case is unbelievable and terrifying at the same time. I followed this one from the very beginning, and the other day I checked if there was any new information, and let me tell you, my jaw was on the floor when I saw how this case played out. When you hear the details of this case, you will be blown away at how it happened, and I'll tell you right now, you will not believe, or at least you won't want to believe, the conclusion the courts came to. This is such a wild ride of a case, so without any further delay, let's just jump right in. Collin Griffith was the son of Kathy and Charles Griffith. However, at one point, his parents' marriage ended in divorce, and from there, they were trying to navigate the struggles of co-parenting while living in different states. We don't know too much about Collin's life growing up or how things were for him as a child. What we do know is that by 2019, 11-year-old Collin moved away from his home in Port Charlotte, Florida, to Stroud, Oklahoma, to live with his father. Not much was known about Collin's life with his father until February 14th, 2023. That day, Lincoln County Dispatch received a 911 call from then 15-year-old Collin reporting that he had just shot his father in self-defense. Once officers arrived to the scene, they found that 41-year-old Charles Griffith had been shot 2 times, once in the head and once in the chest. They were met with Collin, who told them that the two were in the middle of a heated altercation when his father grabbed a knife and started chasing him with it. They ended up in the bedroom where Charles had him cornered. At that point, he felt that he had no choice but to grab a gun nearby and shoot his father to save his own life. He later explained that the house was filled with guns, so he just grabbed whatever was nearby and acted out of fear. But according to the original arrest affidavit, upon assessing the scene, detectives were finding evidence that did not align with that story. There were too many details that just did not add up to a self-defense claim. At that point, officers arrested Collin and took him into the station for questioning. From there, he spent the following days in jail on charges of murder. After his arrest, Collin's mother, Kathy, was notified, and of course, she was just stunned by the whole situation. She ended up going to Oklahoma and paid the $50,000 to post his bond. By the following month, in March, he was released into her custody, thus allowing him to await his charges and hearings outside of a jail cell. During this time, the truth about what Collin faced while living with his dad was revealed. According to Collin, after moving in with his dad on the farm, his dad controlled everything he did. Collin was isolated and prevented from ever leaving the farm. He was forced to work long hours on the farm, but was only given 1 meal per day. He wasn't even allowed to contact his family, including his mother, who tried calling him many times over the 3 years he lived there, but was never allowed to speak with him. For the month that followed, investigation into Charles's death continued, but detectives actually could not find sufficient evidence to prove that this case was anything but self-defense. Based on this, they actually dropped the charges against Collin. From there, he continued living with his mother in Port Charlotte, Florida. For the months that followed this, things seemed to be going smoothly, or at least that's how it appeared on the outside. Kathy was happy that she got to spend so much time with her son after not having much contact with him for so many years. She took him on numerous vacations, including cruises to tropical destinations, and once they went to Washington, D.C. to tour the White House and watch the fireworks on the 4th of July. She bought him Starbucks almost every day. She bought him whatever video games he wanted and let him play pretty much whenever. It also seemed like he did really well in school. He was getting decent grades and was in AP courses and even graduated from high school early. After graduating early, Kathy bought him a brand new 2024 VW Jetta as a gift. But by September of that same year, someone from Collin's school requested a mental health check for him after hearing him making some concerning statements. According to the staff member, Collin was claiming that his mother had pulled out a gun on him during an argument. Of course, police followed up with Kathy, and she adamantly denied that claim. She explained that there was a disagreement. She had confiscated Collin's phone and AirPods after seeing his grades dropping in school. This resulted in an argument, but she denies ever pulling out a gun. Despite this, officers did find it concerning enough that they took Collin into protective custody for a mental health evaluation under the Baker Act, otherwise known as the Florida Mental Health Act. This act allows an individual to be taken into a facility for involuntary examination under certain circumstances. If they are believed to have a severe mental illness and refuse to get treatment, if they're unable to care for themselves without treatment and are at risk for self-harm or harming another, or if they're exhibiting behaviors that show that they pose a threat to themselves or others. Based on what they heard of the situation, Collin fit that last criterion. While Collin was being examined, Kathy spoke to one of the detectives about how bad things have gotten in the home. She said that Collin had been showing some very concerning and scary behaviors. He had threatened self-harm and harm against Kathy. She had been reaching out to mental health facilities all across the state, but Collin said that he would kill any therapist who diagnosed him with a mental illness. He was growing out of control, and she didn't know what to do about it. While detained at the mental health center, Collin was diagnosed with PTSD and a personality disorder. After that, he was discharged into her care with his newfound diagnosis. From there, Kathy was hopeful that she would be able to help her son and maybe things would turn out okay. Pretty quickly, though, she realized that this just was not going to happen. By November 13, 2023, officers were called to Collin's grandmother's residence after she called to report that Collin attacked his mother, Kathy. When officers showed up, their interactions with each individual were captured on body cam footage, which has since been released. From the jump, Collin claimed once again that he attacked his mother in self-defense. He said that Catherine had been yelling at him and telling him to shut up before hitting him in the face. He responded by kneeing her in the stomach and hitting her in the face before tackling her to the ground to subdue her.
I got off the phone with Rentis, we sat down and we ate, and she started talking to me about how a bunch of really bad shit, and then when I got up and was like, you can't just do that, and she was telling me to shut up, she hit me in the face, and then I reacted like this. She grabbed onto me, I hit her in the stomach, and then I'm a wrestler. It was just reactive. Grabbed her. She got to the ground. I grabbed the phone. I started recording and then I left. Okay, that's it.
So she hit you in the face?
Yeah.
After hearing from Collin, they put him in the back of the police cruiser while they spoke with Kathy and Susan and assessed Kathy's injuries.
It hurts. I mean, you can see how swollen my knuckles are. It's okay. He literally stomped on my hand to get the phone out of my hand.
Let me see the inside of your hand. All right, do you have any pain to your wrist at all? Or is it just right here in the top of your hand?
No, it's
all of this?
Yeah, from here till about here.
Okay, when did that happen?
When he attacked me.
Was that like a couple minutes ago, an hour ago?
In the past 20, 30 minutes. And then he takes me here. I have some redness.
When they spoke to Susan, she said that Collin would sometimes stay with her when Collin and Kathy weren't getting along. She said that he had been staying with her for a while, but it was time to go home. He didn't want to go home, though, saying that he'd rather go to foster care. That obviously wasn't an option, and Susan told him that he needed to learn to get along with Kathy. She told officers that Collin had some mental health issues, which he's been working through with a therapist for a while. He needed to learn how to control his anger. She went on to explain that once Kathy showed up to pick Collin up to come home with her, Kathy made it clear that many of his privileges were going to be taken away. She wouldn't be buying him unlimited Starbucks or video games anymore. He wasn't going to be going on an upcoming cruise they had planned. She was going to take away his cell phone for a while until he learned to act right. At that time, Kathy did take away his phone, which, according to Susan, sent him into a rage. At that point, Kathy started recording this interaction on her phone, which caused Collin to jump on top of her and start attacking her. In that moment, Susan said that he only cared about getting that phone back.
Collin did not want to come back home.
Okay.
And I said, you don't have a choice. You have to go back home. And he said, no, I want foster care. And even the corporal was saying, foster care isn't going to be good for you. You don't have issues. You have to work on them. We talked all the way down, and I said, you have got to learn to get your anger under control. You want to be a Marine. People are going to get it. I'm retired from the service. I said,
So am I.
Very good. So I said, people are going to get in your face, and you're going to have to learn to deal with that. You just ignore it.
Right.
And I said, the other thing, too, is you don't ever hit anybody. You don't even touch somebody. And especially somebody as small as Kathy. That is just something that you cannot ever do. I said, that needs to be. He goes, no, but I said, there are no buts. We got here. And Princess had agreed. She's going to lay the law down. Know that she is the parent. She is doing what she thinks is best for him. That he's not going to have his cellular phone. He's not going to have access because he's like talking to some person on the online that we don't even know who this person is.
Okay.
And that she said, I don't want you ever calling me a psychopathic narcissist anymore. I said, and he goes, no, I didn't. He goes, no, I heard you say that. So,
okay.
He just, he had said that in the past. And she said, let me lay this out for you, because the only thing I think you really care about is money. So anytime there's an infraction, I'm going to take that from you. And it'll add up. So you have got to fly right, because otherwise, if not, and then he was doing something with his eye. I think he wanted the phone. And that's all he was concerned about, was getting
His phone back.
His phone.
So was he upset about getting his phone back, or upset about not going on the cruise and going to get evaluated?
I think both.
Both.
After the officer spoke with Susan about the situation, she went to the patrol car to speak with Collin herself. There, she told him that he needed to get his anger under control. She still loves him and is praying for the best for him. Collin said, though, that his anger is just fine. It only comes out when someone attacks him. But Susan wouldn't take that. She said that this whole thing was not started by Kathy. It was started by him, who was instigating the whole thing because he wasn't happy about his phone being taken away.
You've got to get your anger under control, okay? I'm saying prayers for you all the time, Collin. I love you.
Mama, I think my anger's fine. It's just that when someone attacks me, I don't know.
Why did you stand up? And why did you say?
So we're just trying to have a face-to-face conversation.
No, you didn't. You stood up and said, okay, let's do it. Let's do it. Yes, you did. I was there.
I was saying, Mom, I'm not a psychopath. I'm not this murderer. I'm just trying to peacefully leave or peacefully coexist and just figure something out. And she kept telling me to shut up and shut up. And when I wouldn't shut up, she hit me.
No, that's not what happened, Collin. That's not what happened. You never said you wanted to peacefully coexist.
By that point, officers had examined both Collin and Kathy, and it was clear that Kathy had multiple injuries. Her wrist was hurt. She had red marks and bruises. It was also clear by her demeanor that she was afraid of her son. She was quiet, nervous, and hesitant to talk to officers. Meanwhile, Collin was emotionless the entire time. He was calm and collected. He just told his story to the officers. He also didn't have a mark or scratch on him, and definitely not on his face. So, based on this, Collin was taken away in that police car. He was arrested and charged with domestic battery. From there, he spent the night in jail. While in jail, he made several comments about not wanting to go home to his mom. He said that he doesn't know what he would do if he had to go home with her. He might freak out. He might kill her. Despite this, the morning following the attack, he was about to be returned home to his mother's house, but obviously these statements were concerning. Police met with Collin once again at the home and spoke with him. He told officers that things were not okay in the home. He doesn't know where his mom's head is at, but she keeps calling him a psychopath and thinks he's gonna kill her. When police asked him about the alleged statements he made about wanting to kill his mom, he said that he didn't want to kill her, nor did he ever say such a thing. He did say that he didn't want to be sent back to his mom's house and doesn't know why the officer did it anyways, other than saying that the officer didn't like his attitude. He went on to say that he doesn't think he should be alone in the home with his mom. He's scared of her. They've had issues for a long, long time where she acts out very frequently. She had pulled a gun on him one time. She freaked out all the time in response to him not helping enough around the house, not doing enough chores, and things like that. He said that she has ADHD and was abused by his dad. So all of that put together creates this unpleasant, toxic environment under which they had been living.
So what's going on, man?
Last night, me and my mom went to a physical altercation. I got arrested for domestic battery, but going in front of a judge today, I have a right to a public defender, and we'll see how that goes.
Okay. So how is the situation with you and mom right now? Have things calmed down? Are you guys able to get along? Where are we at?
No, sir. It's not good. She thinks that I beat the shit out of her. I don't. She thinks that I'm like psychotic, like literally psychopath, sociopath, something like that. I don't know exactly where she's at. She thinks I'm gonna kill her. I want to kill her, or that I want to beat the shit out of her.
Do you?
No, sir.
Okay.
I don't want to hurt anyone, let alone my mom, even despite this happening. But I'm not gonna take what I consider abuse when someone's attacking me. And
how is she attacking you?
when she attacked me, when she threw a punch at me and grabbed on me, I grabbed onto her back. I got her off of me. She hit the ground, and then I fled and called Rentis, and then he sent someone out.
You called who?
Rentis, Detective Rentis.
Okay.
Did you make any statements saying that you were going to kill your mom if you got in a car with her?
No, sir.
I'm trying to figure out why we would have a corporal at the jail that took you out, that dropped you off with your mom and telling us that you said, "Don't put me in a car with her. I'm going to kill her."
Yeah.
Was that said?
I did not say I was going to kill her. I did not say kill. I don't know why he sent me back here. I asked him not to, but he said he didn't like my attitude and that I had to just work on it.
Okay. Well, we're just trying to figure out. We just want to make sure we do everything we can to prevent anything happening.
Sir, given the situation, I don't think that we should be in the same house at all. I don't think it's okay. I mean, we're going to court anyways at 1. God knows what's going to happen then.
So what does this all start over? Has this been ongoing forever, or is this all of a sudden happened last night?
For a long time. So I came to live with her after my dad died, and since then, there's just been kind of times when things boil over with her, and she acts out. One time, she pulled a gun on me. I called the cops. I guess I wouldn't believe.
What got her to the point that she's doing these things?
I don't know.
You have no idea. All of a sudden, out of nowhere, she pulls a gun or hit you?
It's because that I'm driving her crazy somehow with the way that I act, and I don't know how I'm acting badly. She talks about school a lot. My grades are fine. I got a 3.7 GPA.
Okay. I mean, obviously you're not, you're a smart enough kid. I get that or whatever, but I mean, obviously it takes two to create this type of environment in this situation, right? I've heard nothing. You haven't said a word about what's going on, what you're doing, or what is going on to provoke this, or where it's coming from, other than out of the blue, your mom flies off the handle and does this stuff. I'm struggling with that a little bit.
She claims that because I don't help around the house, don't seem to follow rules. A big thing for her is that I don't make a schedule. I don't schedule my day. She has ADHD and a lot of other stuff. She was really abused by my dad, from what I know, and that kind of just made it to where she has these very specific things that set her off, these triggers.
After all of this, police detained Collin once again, placing him on an involuntary psychiatric hold under the Bakers Act. After this second evaluation and intervention, he was eventually placed back into the care of his mom against the wishes of the officers who had worked with the family. But that was the decision of DCF, who felt that this is what was best. But almost a year after this incident, by September 8th, 2024, the consequences of these repeated decisions came to a head in the most devastating, unbelievable way. Now, 2 days prior, yet another altercation had broken out between Collin and his mother over chores. She had asked him to help her build a bookshelf, or to help her with yard work, or to clean up his room, but he didn't want to do any of that. So Collin left and stayed at his grandmother's home. At the time, Susan was at another property she owned down in the Florida Keys, so Collin had free range of the home all by himself without any rules, exactly how he liked it. This understandably upset Kathy, who just wanted to teach her son some responsibility while also trying her best to maintain a relationship with him. So after he left, Kathy and him were texting back and forth. Kathy was threatening to take away his car, his phone, and his computer. This actually escalated to Kathy talking about the shooting with his dad. She said that she has recordings of him planning the murder of his father and is going to send them to officers. She also said that she had texts, emails, and phone records where Collin talks about trying to plan her murder. She said she's also sending those to the cops. All of this was happening because Kathy was pissed at Collin because he was just continuously disrespecting her and refused to follow any of the rules. These were threats she never actually planned on following through with, but she wanted to make sure Collin knew that she wasn't playing around this time. A few hours after those texts were sent, a fed-up Kathy made her way over to Susan's house to pick Collin up and bring him home, arriving there by around 5 p.m. After her arrival, according to neighbors, they saw an altercation break out between Kathy and Collin near the carport outside the home. They said that Kathy was animated and clearly upset, but she wasn't doing anything to harm Collin. This argument quickly escalated, and they watched as Collin grabbed Kathy by either her hair, neck, or shoulder and dragged her inside the home. As that was happening, Kathy was yelling, "Stop, stop, you're hurting me, let me go." Once inside, things got quiet, and the neighbors didn't hear anything further. What they didn't know was that inside that house, things grew further out of control. About an hour after these neighbors saw this initial fight, 911 received a call from Collin, who reported that his mother was dead. According to his initial statements, after the fight broke out, his mother lunged at him with a knife from the butcher block, but ended up stabbing herself in the neck, killing herself. Once first responders arrived, they found 39-year-old Kathy inside the home, lying on the floor surrounded by a pool of blood with a big gaping hole in her neck. The stab wound from the knife had gone completely through to the other side, so much so that the paramedics could see the floor through the hole in her neck. She also had a wound to her hand, indicative of a defensive wound. Meanwhile, when officers examined Collin, he had no injuries whatsoever. When they tried speaking with him and questioning him about what happened, he refused to talk to the authorities and was completely uncooperative. Right away, he asked to speak with a lawyer. After examining the initial scene and speaking with Collin, officers felt that the story he had been giving just didn't make any sense. Nothing was adding up, and the scene was incongruent with the information they were being given. Based on this, officers did arrest Collin at the scene, eventually charging him with murder and kidnapping, with the kidnapping charge coming from how he apparently dragged her into the home. Of course, he pleaded not guilty to his charges and awaited his trial in jail. The start of the trial happened relatively quickly on January 29, 2025. The prosecution argued that Collin killed his mom out of rage after becoming upset with her taking away his privileges. This murder was a part of an ongoing pattern of violent behavior from Collin. He made prior threats against his mother's life, including saying that he would throw her from a car, shoot her with a gun, or even stab her. He often called his mom an evil bitch and malicious and hate-fueled verbal attacks. Meanwhile, all Kathy did was try her best to spend time with her son. She was admittedly too soft on him for a while. He was spoiled. Like I said, she would buy him Starbucks every day. He played video games whenever he wanted and went on a bunch of luxury trips with her. She would do anything to make him happy, but anytime he was told no or was asked to do anything, he freaked out. all of these attacks that we heard about before were the result of him being asked to do chores or having his possessions taken away. The altercation that happened on September 8th was no different. Collin left because he was angry about his mom asking him to help her around the house. He went to Susan's, where he had free reign to do what he wanted. While there, Kathy texted him, threatening to take away his privileges and even threatening to expose these recordings of him apparently admitting to killing his dad. Now, I want to note that at the trial, the judge allowed them to discuss the incident in which he shot someone, but they did not allow them to say who it was. So, when all of this was being discussed, they could only say that Collin shot and killed someone. He didn't have any current charges for the shooting, but the case was still being investigated. By the time Kathy arrived to pick Collin up, he was already heated about being asked to do chores, as well as about his mom threatening to expose him. This resulted in him attacking her, dragging her inside, and stabbing her in the neck with a kitchen knife. This was a malicious, violent murder. The medical examiner who performed Kathy's autopsy took the stand to testify at trial. He described Kathy's neck wound as large, gaping, and likely the result of a single blade. The knife went clear through her esophagus, windpipe, and vocal cord, coming out the other side of the neck. He said that this absolutely was not consistent with someone falling onto a knife and it accidentally going through her throat. That story was just preposterous. Based on his examination, he ruled Kathy's death as a homicide. Multiple other people took the stand to testify to Collin's malicious statements and violent outbursts. Collin's grandfather and Kathy's father, Robert, took the stand to testify that Collin would often become irritated with both Kathy and Susan. He often said things like, "I'm tired of these two bitches. I want to see them bleed out." He once even said about Kathy, "I want to slit her throat." He threatened to kill both of them on multiple occasions, but even through all of that, Kathy wanted her son at home with her. She wanted a relationship with him. Multiple detectives who either knew Kathy personally or who had worked with both of them on multiple occasions also took the stand to testify. Once again, they all said that Kathy just wanted to make her son happy, but he freaked out anytime he was asked to do anything like take out the trash. They repeated that he had made multiple threats to kill his mother and grandmother on multiple occasions. One officer even said that Collin explained having two different personas. Collin 1, who just wanted to survive, and Collin 2, who would protect Collin 1 and even kill for him. Collin 1 would allow Collin 2 to kill his mom if it came down to it. Based on all of this, they said that it's clear that Collin is a violent person who is willing to hurt others if he doesn't get his way. Many people referred to him as a psychopath, which is something else that upsets him. But it seems that it was a pretty accurate statement based on all of this information that we know. And for whatever reason, despite his mom spoiling him and showering him with love, Collin absolutely hated her. He despised her. The prosecution argued that this was not self-defense, but a cold-blooded murder. On the other hand, the defense was now admitting that Collin did stab his mother in the throat, but he only did so out of self-defense. They said that Kathy was an unstable, unpredictable, erratic woman with a history of lashing out at her son. We can see that she lashes out at her son based just on those text messages that she was sending him in the hours before coming to get him from Susan's. The defense said that once she arrived at Susan's, the altercation broke out because Kathy was acting out of control. In the midst of it, Collin decided that he wanted to bring his mother inside to avoid the embarrassment of the neighbors having to watch such an intense fight. He didn't drag her in. He guided her inside with his hand. The defense pointed out that there were no injuries on her scalp to indicate that she had been dragged by her hair. As we heard from before, Collin said that his mom would freak out on him, yell at him, and hit him. Once she apparently even pulled a gun out on him. He never felt safe in that home and did everything he could to get away from Kathy. He was constantly telling officers and DCFS workers that he was afraid of his mom and wanted to get out of the house, but they never listened. That part is at least proven in the body cam footage we see from police. Susan, Kathy's mother, and Collin's grandmother, the same grandmother we heard from earlier, took the stand to testify in his defense. She confirmed that Kathy was an unstable woman. She recalled multiple instances throughout Kathy's life in which she threatened and even attempted suicide. There was another detective who testified to knowing about Kathy's history of these attempts. Susan confirmed that Kathy was abused by her ex, which caused her emotional distress and PTSD. Because of her mental health issues, things could set Kathy off and trigger outbursts where she would fly off the handle. Susan talked about how Kathy would often cut herself off from the rest of the family. She would have periods where she would just completely stop talking to family members, but then would just come back into their lives like nothing happened. Susan even said that Kathy was a known liar and would often make things up. She continued that Kathy wasn't the doting, loving mother she appeared to be. There was a time in January 2024 when Collin spent weeks staying at Susan's, and during this time, I guess Kathy forgot where he even was. She would often complain about having to take care of Collin, saying that she didn't like waking up early to take him to school. Beyond that, she made Collin go through physical punishments as well. She would beat him with a belt, made him do push-ups, or make him hold a weight over his head while running in place. Susan said that she still has frequent communication with Collin while he was in jail and does not believe that he's capable of murdering his own mother. She does not believe he is guilty and does not want to see him go to prison. After hearing the arguments from both sides, the prosecution and defense made their closing statements. The prosecution's closing focused on Collin's pure hatred for his mother as well as his intelligence. He had so much hatred that led up to him murdering her, and he was intelligent enough to play it off both times with the other person, aka his father, and his mother, to make up these stories and act as if he was the victim. He was able to manipulate everyone around him into getting exactly what he wanted, and that includes Susan, his grandmother. He was able to manipulate her into, I guess, supporting his side. He was an intelligent, psychopathic kid who showed no emotion through any of this, who is absolutely guilty of murdering his mother in cold blood. In their closing statements, the defense asked the jury if it's reasonable that Kathy could have known the outcome of her actions when she picked up a knife and threatened her son. If so, they should find Collin not guilty. After these arguments were made, the jury was sent off for deliberations. They deliberated for less than 12 hours before coming back with their verdict. They found that 17-year-old Collin Griffith was not guilty of murdering his mother. They believed that the state did not prove beyond a reasonable doubt that this was a murder and not self-defense.
Collin Griffith. Will the jury find as follows? As to the defendant in this case, the defendant, as to count...
If you are the foreperson, please raise your hand.
As to count two, the defendant is not guilty. So say will, this 5th day of February, 2025.
Does the state wish to have the jury polled?
No, you
You may be seated.
So he was exonerated and subsequently released from jail. He is now a free man and will be able to go on with the rest of his life as if he didn't kill both of his parents. That is, of course, if he's not charged again in his father's death. Based on everything we heard, I think it's clear that Collin had an unstable relationship with both parents. We don't really know why Collin moved across the country and in with his dad when he was younger, but obviously there has to be some sort of reasoning for that. I do believe the claims that his father may have been abusive because it seems like he was also abusive towards Kathy, and there's people other than Collin and Kathy who have said so. But do I believe he shot his dad in self-defense? I honestly don't know. I don't think there's enough information right now to say one way or another. Even in the arrest affidavit, it doesn't go into what evidence they actually found at the scene that led them to believe that this wasn't self-defense. It just says that there was evidence, so we don't even know what that is. Then, when it comes to his mom, I think still, clearly they had a strained relationship. I do think that she spoiled him, and I think that she did feel guilty and was trying to make up for all the lost time while he was living with his father. Maybe Collin resented his mom for those years spent with his dad and made that known. Maybe that's why Collin hated her so much. So Kathy continued to overcompensate. But at the same time, just because she bought him gifts and took smiling photos with him doesn't mean that she also wasn't unstable. It doesn't mean that she didn't have all those outbursts she's been accused of. It's possible that Collin truly did fear his mother. It's possible that everything said about her is true. But at the same time, it's possible that Collin was truly a spoiled little brat who thinks he's better than everyone else. I think he clearly does have some mental health issues. So this, combined with him being spoiled and thinking he doesn't owe anyone anything, contributed to him lashing out and throwing fits anytime he was asked to do anything. It's possible that as Kathy got more strict and controlling, he decided that no one would get to tell him what to do. So when she came to pick him up to bring him home, he attacked her and it escalated. And if that truly is what happened, then he actually got exactly what he wanted, and he was, in fact, smart enough to game the system. Both of his parents are gone. There's no one left to boss him around. I'm sure he will live with some sort of family members, but I doubt they will be nearly as strict as either of his parents were. And that is where we're left with today's case. This is such a wild ride of a case, one that I followed from the very beginning, and when I found out that he was acquitted of his charges, I was blown away. It makes me wonder if the jury would have come to a different conclusion if his father was allowed to be named at the trial, because what are the odds that a teenage boy kills both of his parents over a year apart and both are self-defense? I mean, it's possible, but come on. It's just such a crazy case, such a crazy situation, and I truly worry for the safety of everyone around Collin as he goes about the rest of his life. I truly hope that he doesn't go on to hurt anyone else, but based on his behaviors that he's exhibited throughout this case, I just don't think that's going to happen. I think it truly is concerning how calm he was all throughout all of those police interactions. I truly don't know if he feels any emotions, and I think it's totally possible that he is a psychopath. It's terrifying to know that someone like him is just out there walking the streets, empowered after taking no accountability for killing 2 people. It's just wild. But at the same time, I guess he could still just be a kid who was given horrible circumstances and had to defend his own life. But either way, he's going to be affected by this for the rest of his life. And I don't know if I want someone like that walking the streets, but that's what I think. And now I want to hear from you guys. Do you think Collin got away with 2 murders, or were they both self-defense? If you were on that jury, do you think you would have found him guilty, and do you think he'll ever face charges for the death of his father? Let's discuss this and any other thoughts you have in the comments below. If you like this video, please make sure to go ahead and leave this video a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. I put out new true crime and mystery videos every single week. Don't forget to turn the notification bell too on so you don't miss out on any of my future videos. Make sure to follow me on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. All will be linked down below. And if you have any case suggestions, please make sure to fill out the Google form, which will also be listed down below. With that, hope you guys have an amazing week. Stay safe, stay healthy, and I hope to see you guys next time. Bye.